I, female, 31, and my husband, male, 49, blend my two children, A, female, 13, and L, male, 10, and his older daughter, C, 19, who is currently away at college. We have been together for almost 10 years now, so he is familiar with my kids and our family dynamic. My daughter has had ADHD and developmental delays since she was about 2. Now she has been diagnosed with anxiety and depression as well since she entered puberty about a year ago. She was Baker acted once this past year and required a change in her medication. She is in the process of testing for ASD or other disorders as well, since ADHD may be masking something else. Her mood can switch very quickly, and she has started swearing and behaving badly, especially if her technology is locked. She doesn't do well at school and doesn't take care of herself properly. I have been the one to take her to various therapy programs since she was 2. This is just to give you an idea of the situation. My husband works from home 100% of the time, but I am a teacher. I recently obtained my master's degree in education leadership. In November, my principal asked me to attend an education technology conference for 4 nights and 5 days for the school and report back with some professional development, PD, trainings to present to the staff. The conference is next week. My husband and I discussed it, and back in November, he agreed to support me and take care of our 2 younger children, his stepchildren, while I was at the conference. He promised to make sure my daughter left for the bus stop on time and to take my younger child to and from school, as well as feed them dinner and put them to bed. Before her psychiatric appointment this morning, my daughter had a bad episode, swearing at me and being nasty, because I found out she had circumvented parental controls on her devices. As a consequence, I shut them down for the week, so she had no choice but to focus on school. This went on for about 15 minutes, even during her psychiatric session, which was helpful for her psychiatrist to see and understand what we can do to help her. I took her to school and came back home, and my husband lost his temper. He said he was too stressed to handle her, and that no one in their right mind would look after my daughter for that long of a time without me. He said I should feel guilty for even asking him to take care of them for that long. He told me I should only go for half the time. He didn't understand why I needed to attend a conference since I'm just a teacher, etc. He said that if she were to misbehave the way she did today or in the past, he would call the police and have her immediately placed in a hospital while I was away. There's more, but you get the idea. Some background information about him is that he has always been the non-custodial parent. He never had full custody of his biological daughter, so he never really experienced day-to-day parenting until we got together. I reached out to my principal and asked her to assign my conference attendance to one of our instructional coaches instead, explaining that I couldn't risk leaving my daughter here without my supervision. I hated doing that because I felt it made me appear less reliable and professional to my principal. I'm very mad and upset. I feel resentful that I had to cancel something that would have helped advance my career because he backed out due to a recent episode my daughter had. So, am I the jerk? How do we move forward from this point? Most of our arguments and anger toward each other stem from situations involving my daughter, and they are becoming more frequent as she grows older. Edit. I should have mentioned that she has never been violent. It's usually screaming and crying fits and swearing. Also, in October of 2023, he watched them for 3 nights and 4 days while I attended a similar conference. He has been alone with them on more occasions than I can count, and he has always said that they are better behaved with him alone than with both of us together. Final update. We had a chance to talk this afternoon regarding what happened this morning. What stressed him out was the reality that he would have to adjust his alarm clock, wake up an hour earlier, and deal with traffic during pickups and drop-offs. It's a luxury he never had to do, except when I asked him, which hasn't been since 2022. I agree with the main comment above. Maybe I'm not the jerk, but neither is he. However, the way he handled the situation was not ideal. Not only did he use the outburst my older one had as an excuse, but he also vented all his other frustration and stress. Years ago, he privately asked me to have the kids respect him like a father, since he has been around since my younger child was 18 months old. He never wanted to be called a step-parent and even encouraged a nickname they could call him instead of his first name. He wanted all the rights without the work. I told him that if he wants the respect of a father, he has to act like a father. Otherwise, he can have the respect of a step-parent without any expected assistance or responsibilities. You can't have it both ways. I discussed with my spouse the fact that being a parent is a lifelong commitment, and I'm asking him to be both a fatherly figure and a co-parent to my children. I told him to take the year to consider at what capacity he feels he can fulfill those roles. I also told him, as another commenter suggested, that if he feels he cannot or should not handle it, I need to know now, because I can't separate my marriage from my parenting. All in all, I don't feel resentful anymore. I'm very upset that I still had to cancel something that he committed to helping me with. To those who suggested therapy, trust me, we are in the process of scheduling it, along with blended family counseling, so that we all comprehend what we expect from each other. While our age gap is something to consider, it didn't prompt the argument. However, it does indicate his level of maturity as well as my naivety in my youth. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. I mean this with kindness, but this is not the time for you to be focusing on your career. Your daughter's behavior is off the charts, and I totally understand and sympathize with your husband in being put in this situation. Yes, he has been with you and the kids for 10 years, but he could have never expected this. It's not his child. Do not accept overnight work trips until your daughter is able to self-regulate and you're leaving them all in a good situation. It's not fair to your husband. Right now, your primary focus needs to be your daughter and not your job. Sorry, you're the idiot. Comment 2, soft. You're the idiot. She has taken to cussing us out and being a downright terror at times, especially if her technology is locked. Your daughter is dangerous to leave alone with your husband. You may not want to see that. You may not want to hear that, but it's the truth. Quite frankly, I think she needs a caregiver. Alternatively, her outbursts and actions should be thoroughly documented for the protection of you all. Now for the update. Hey everyone, it's been a rough couple of weeks since my last post, and I've got quite the update for you all. After the blow-up with my husband about the conference and my daughter's behavior, things took some unexpected turns. First off, let me give you a bit of history. My husband, let's call him Mark, has always been a bit of a hot and cold kind of guy. When we first met, he was the life of the party, always ready with a joke or a story. But when it came to serious stuff, like dealing with my daughter's ADHD and other challenges, he'd often shut down or get defensive. It's been a point of contention for us, but we've managed to work through it, or so I thought. Now, back to the present. After our argument, Mark did something I never expected. He reached out to C, his daughter who's away at college, and asked for her advice. C has always been the level-headed one, and she gave him a piece of her mind. She reminded him of the commitment he made to our family and how he needed to step up, especially when things got tough. Taking her words to heart, Mark came to me with an apology and a plan. He had arranged for his sister, who has experience with special needs kids, to come and stay with us during the conference. He admitted he was wrong to back out and that he wanted to support my career and our family. But that's not all. Remember how I mentioned my daughter's recent diagnosis and her struggles at school? Well, Mark started to take a more active role in her life. He began attending therapy sessions with her and even started learning about ADHD and anxiety to better understand what she's going through. Things were looking up, but then we hit another bump. My daughter had another episode, this time at school. It was bad enough that the school called me to pick her up. I was ready to rush over, but Mark beat me to it. He handled the situation with a calm I hadn't seen in him before. He talked to her teachers, calmed my daughter down, and even managed to get her to laugh on the way home. This change in Mark was like night and day. It was as if C's words had flipped a switch in him. He started to take on more responsibilities with the kids, helping with homework and even cooking dinner, which, trust me, was a surprise to us all. As for the conference, it went ahead as planned. With Mark's sister there to help, I was able to focus on the PD trainings and network with other educators. I came back with a wealth of knowledge and ideas to share with my school. But the best part, when I got home, I found my house in peace. My daughter was doing her homework at the kitchen table, my son was playing quietly in the living room, and Mark was in the kitchen, trying his hand at a new recipe he found online. We sat down for dinner that night, and it was like we were a different family. We laughed, we talked, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were all on the same page. Mark and I had a long talk after the kids went to bed. He admitted that he had been scared of failing as a parent, especially to a child with special needs. But he realized that running away from the problem wasn't the solution. He promised to be more involved and to work with me as a team. And you know what? He's kept that promise. These past 2 weeks have been some of the best we've had as a family. My daughter's behavior has improved, and she's even started to open up to Mark more. My fiancé keeps forgiving his ex's lies until she begs for cash and sends him racy texts. I confront him, but he blames me for overreacting. My fiancé, 56-year-old male, met his ex, 48-year-old female, 15 years ago, and they dated for a couple of months. After they broke up, she revealed she was pregnant, and they now have a beautiful child, 14-year-old male. The two of them tried to make it work for the sake of their son, but their relationship was so tumultuous, they would break up hours after they tried to get back together. Fast forward 10 years, and I, 42-year-old female, meet my fiancé, who is still having a very challenging time co-parenting with his ex. I have also had a very difficult time co-parenting with my ex, so I empathize and have a lot of patience for this type of thing. I do everything from finding them a family therapist to playing mediator at home during huge meltdowns. The ex accuses my fiancé of everything, including inflicting severe emotional and physical abuse on her son, untrue, and not paying child support, despite the fact that he bought her a large, beautiful home worth $650,000. She has gone so far as to call the police and show up on our doorstep at midnight with several law enforcement officers during my fiancé's mother's 80th birthday celebration, which was more like a beautiful wedding, took almost a year to plan, and included hundreds of guests. My future mother-in-law said it was the most humiliating moment of her entire life. Despite all this, my fiancé forgives her and continues working together with her without learning from the past and creating healthy boundaries to help us avoid similar situations in the future. A year and a half ago, after we discovered that she had created a secret language with her son and was coaching him to take videos of my fiancé when he was disciplining, I really dug my heels in and asked why he was communicating with her at all. They have a very specific custody schedule down to the hour, and most of their pickups and drop-offs happen at school, so none of their communication is ever about scheduling. We had read in the text messages between his ex and their son that she was hoping to collect as much evidence as possible so that she could legally gain full custody of him. My fiancé dug his heels in even deeper, however, and gave me an ultimatum in response. Either become friends with his ex or end our relationship. Because he said it was more about his son and we always put our children's needs first, I agreed. Over the course of maybe 6 months of friendship with her, she lied to me about very upsetting things about my fiancé, I believe, to attempt to break us up, admitted to recording our conversations multiple times, and took a text message from me sent in good faith with my fiancé's permission, and used it against him in family court as part of her evidence. Recently, my fiancé's ex got remarried to a man she'd known from childhood. He moved cross-country to live with her, and within a couple of weeks, they had eloped. Over the next 4.5 months, we rarely heard from her. She didn't text or call about her health issues, or even any issues related to their son. It was such a welcome reprieve from our typical daily communication with her. She and her husband decided to divorce 5 months after they married, and he immediately moved back across the country, claiming she was truly insane and the biggest liar he had ever met. The ex began calling and texting my fiancé nonstop, asking for money, claiming her husband had cleaned out her bank account and left because he was an addict. Over the last 3 or 4 months that she's been single, she has gradually gotten increasingly close to my fiancé. We had always agreed to support one another in co-parenting relationships, but said basic ground rules are that communication needs to stay exclusively about the child. And I abide by these rules as well in my co-parenting relationship. But my fiancé's ex isn't getting the hint. She gets frustrated throughout the day when he doesn't immediately respond to her, and sometimes her texts are as ridiculous as alerting him to his favorite scented candles being on a $2 sale. I know it's just a matter of time before this blows up again in a huge way. Whenever I discuss it with my fiancé and suggest he put in place better boundaries, he says that I don't believe in him and I'm trying to sabotage his co-parenting relationship and his son's happiness. This week, my fiancé and I took the kids to Cabo for winter break. 2 days ago, I snapped a shot of my fiancé and his son on jet skis we rented on the beach. I sent them to my fiancé. Unbeknownst to me, he sent them to his ex, who then promptly posted them on her social media pages. Yesterday, their son alerted us to this and said he was so embarrassed his mom was posting pictures of him in a swimsuit. My fiancé used to take his ex on all of his family vacations because she wouldn't allow my fiancé to travel with their son unless she was there. I know she is upset she doesn't get to go on these vacations anymore, but after everything she's done, not only to my ex, but to me personally, I feel it's extremely inappropriate to post a photo I took on our family holiday vacation, hoping people will think she's the one here with my fiancé. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. I understand you really love the guy, or think you do, but for me, and this is my point of view only, the second he demanded that I make friends with his ex, especially with all the nonsense she has pulled, that would have been the moment I said I'm done. That's too much, too far. Asking you to be cordial and polite and get along for the sake of the child is well and good, but friends? No freaking way. She's an ex for a reason, and you shouldn't have to be her friend. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Honestly, I think your fiancé should have asked your permission to send the picture to his ex, because after all, you took those pictures, and if you did agree to him sending those pictures to the ex, she could have asked your permission to post them, or added your social media. But irrelevant, I think, your fiancé should set up better boundaries. This will obviously continue, which won't do any good in the future. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a busy ride since then, and I've got some updates that I think you'll find pretty shocking. So, my fiancé and I were enjoying our trip in Cabo, trying to put all the drama behind us. But as you know, drama has a way of following us around like a bad smell. Remember how I mentioned my fiancé's ex had gotten remarried and then quickly divorced? Well, it turns out that wasn't the end of it. Just when we thought we had a break from her constant calls and texts, she started reaching out to my fiancé again. This time, she was playing the victim card hard, saying she was struggling financially after her brief marriage disaster. My fiancé, being the soft-hearted guy he is, started to get sucked back into her web of chaos. Now, let's rewind a bit. My fiancé's ex has always been a master manipulator. She's the type who can twist any situation to her advantage. I remember when they first broke up, she'd use any excuse to keep him close, even using their son as leverage. It was a mess, and it took my fiancé years to even partially untangle himself from her grip. Back to the present, and here we are in Cabo. I took that photo of my fiancé and his son, and without thinking, I sent it to my fiancé. Big mistake. He forwarded it to his ex, and the next thing we know, she's plastered it all over her social media. It's like she's trying to paint this picture that she's still part of the family, and it's driving me nuts. But wait, it gets worse. The day after the photo incident, we're at dinner, and my fiancé's phone won't stop buzzing. It's his ex, of course. She's blowing up his phone with messages that are definitely not about their son. She's reminiscing about the good old days and how much she misses their family vacations together. It's like she's completely ignoring the fact that he's moved on and is with me now. Now, let's not forget, my fiancé bought her a house worth over $500,000, and she still has the nerve to ask for more money. It's like she thinks she's entitled to his support forever. And the worst part? My fiancé doesn't see how she's using him. He's too focused on keeping the peace for their son's sake. Speaking of their son, he's been caught in the middle of this mess for far too long. He's a great kid, but you can tell all this back and forth is taking a toll on him. He's had to grow up way too fast, dealing with his mom's antics and trying to keep the peace between his parents. But let's get back to the juicy stuff. So after the photo fiasco, I confronted my fiancé. I told him he needs to set boundaries with his ex. He can't keep letting her walk all over him, especially not when it affects our relationship and his son's well-being. But he just doesn't get it. He thinks I'm trying to drive a wedge between him and his son, which couldn't be further from the truth. It's like he's got blinders on when it comes to his ex. He forgets all the times she's called the cops on him, or the midnight drama she's caused. It's like he's stuck in this cycle of forgiveness without realizing she's not changing. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, we had a major misunderstanding. My fiancé's ex started sending him messages that were way too friendly, if you catch my drift. She was talking about how she missed his touch and the warmth of his embrace. Now, I know my fiancé, and he's not the type to cheat. But when I saw those messages, I lost it. I confronted him, and we had a huge argument right there in our hotel room. He was adamant that he hadn't responded to any of her advances, but the damage was done. I was fuming, and he was frustrated that I didn't trust him. Turns out the ex had been sending those messages to the wrong number. She'd been trying to reach her most recent ex-husband, not my fiancé. But the damage was done. My fiancé and I were at each other's throats, all because of a simple mix-up. I came home early to a chores argument, and my stepmom threatens to stab me, so Dad questions me. He apologizes later and drops a divorce bombshell. 2 days ago, I came home from school at around noon because we had finals and they let us go out early after we finished them. I got home and decided to relax for a bit before doing anything like my chores. This usually isn't a big deal because I end up getting them done anyways. However, while I was playing some video games, my stepmother came downstairs screaming at me about not cleaning the bathrooms and how I'm a waste of space. So obviously we started arguing, and eventually she screamed at me to get out of her house. I say this in quotes as it's most definitely not her house and is in my father's name. Now let it be known that my city has been unusually cold, and she threw me out in below zero weather. In between screaming about how worthless I am, she also threatened to stab me, so not cool. Eventually, I just packed some stuff and left, and I am currently at my real mom's house studying for the rest of my finals. This is when the real stuff begins. My dad calls me and I'm expecting it to be like an "I'm glad you're safe" type of thing, because my mom said that he was freaking out about me getting kicked out. Instead, he asks why I hadn't done my chores. His wife threatens to stab me, kicks me out, and calls me a waste of life. And he is worried about why I didn't clean a damn bathroom. It was at this point I broke down completely. I told him how I hated him and his wife since the day he introduced us, and how I was done being second to a woman as crazy as her. I said some genuinely harsh things to him before I told him that I wasn't coming back until she was gone for good. I immediately hung up on him afterwards and cried myself to sleep. Originally, I felt that what I said was justified and that every word was deserved. But now, I don't know. My dad works really hard, and I think he just didn't want to accept that his wife had really done or said anything. I just want an outside perspective on how I acted. He messaged me saying he was going to call me later today, so should I maybe apologize or try to say something? I'll update later on, whatever does end up happening. Edit update. I just got off the phone with my dad, and he says he's in the process of divorcing his wife. He also apologized to me, and we sort of had a heart-to-heart conversation. He mentioned that she had been very hostile and unloving recently, and he believes she may be bipolar. I didn't press him for details, so this is basically all that was said about it. He did tell me about looking into counseling for us and acknowledged his mistakes. Overall, we ended the call on a cheerful note. To answer a couple of questions I've seen and to clear some stuff up, I am 14 years old. Yes, I told my dad everything that happened with his wife, and also that she had always been very hostile to me. I do not want to call Child Protective Services at all because my stepmom's kids would most likely be separated for a bit. And as bad as she is, I just think she needs help. My mom and dad have talked and decided that I should be where I'm safe and stay away from the house until his soon-to-be ex-wife leaves tomorrow. So yeah, I'll update if needed, but I'm really looking forward to the future and hopefully a smooth transition with the divorce. Thanks for everything. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot. If he tries to gaslight you and make you go back, I would set up a hidden camera in my room and make sure it's on whenever it's just you and her in the house. Once you get enough evidence, you really should take it to the police. I've been threatened like that by my own mother, so trust me when I say don't expect anything to change quickly, but until it maybe does, protect yourself. Comment 2. Just live with your mom. Tell your dad you don't feel safe, but that you still want a relationship with him. If you think this woman is crazy towards you, I bet she's even crazier towards him, especially since you're not around. She will have no scapegoat to let her anger out on. It will definitely be more directed at your dad. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for all the support on my last post. It's been a month since then, and boy, do I have some updates for you. So after my dad told me he was divorcing my stepmom, I thought things were going to get better. I was back at my mom's place, trying to focus on school and get my finals out of the way. My dad and I were talking more, and he even started coming to my soccer games, which he hadn't done in years. It felt like we were finally reconnecting. But then, things took a turn I didn't see coming. My dad called me one evening, and I could tell by his voice that something was off. He confessed that he and my stepmom had tried to work things out. He said they went to counseling and that she was getting treatment for her issues. I couldn't believe it. After everything she did, he was giving her another chance. I felt betrayed. It was like a punch in the gut. I had opened up to him, told him how I felt, and it seemed like he just ignored it all. I tried to keep my cool on the phone, but inside I was fuming. I told him I needed some time to think and hung up. The next few days were rough. I couldn't focus on anything. I was angry at my dad, sad about the whole situation, and just feeling really alone. My mom noticed and tried to talk to me about it, but I just wasn't ready. Then, out of nowhere, my stepmom's oldest son, who's a couple of years older than me, reached out. He said he wanted to talk. We met up at a park, and he told me that he was sorry for everything his mom had done. He said he knew she was wrong and that he didn't agree with my dad taking her back either. It was weird, but talking to him actually made me feel a bit better. We ended up hanging out for a while, and it was nice to have someone who understood. But just when I thought things couldn't get any more complicated, my dad showed up at my mom's house one night. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept in days. He said he needed to talk to me, and we went for a walk. That's when he dropped the bombshell. He told me that he found out my stepmom had been cheating on him. He had caught her red-handed, and that was the real reason they were getting a divorce. He was heartbroken, and I could see the pain in his eyes. It was the first time I'd ever seen my dad look so vulnerable. I didn't know what to say. I was still mad at him. But seeing him like this, it was hard to stay angry. We ended up talking for hours. He apologized for not believing me, for not putting me first. He said he was going to make it right. Since then, things have been slowly getting better. My dad's been staying at my mom's place while he figures things out. It's been weird having him around all the time, but it's also kind of nice. We've been doing stuff together, just the two of us, like we used to. As for my stepmom, she moved out of my dad's house. I haven't seen her since that day she kicked me out, and I'm okay with that. Her kids are staying with their dad for now, and from what I've heard, they're doing okay. It's been a crazy month, full of ups and downs. I'm still trying to process everything that's happened, but I'm hopeful that things are going to keep getting better. My dad and I are talking about maybe taking a trip together over the summer, just to get away and spend some quality time together. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.